Right, hello there. This is my second video for my vlog. My name is Jimmy Darby, and the book that I'm going to be discussing is the ending, or so far, everything that we read, which we finished the book, Their Eyes Were Watching God, so this is basically going to be about the ending of the book. Alright, cool. So, where we've left off, she's with Joe Starks, and their marriage just turns for the worse. Why? Because Joe, he's putting her in her place, basically, and that place is some sexist place. Basically, she's a trophy wife for him. He doesn't allow her to do anything. He doesn't allow her to have any fun. So for 20 years, which I think that's crazy that she put up with that for 20 years, but for 20 years, they go throughout this marriage where it's almost like this numbing. And Joe Stark eventually dies after she totally, apparently she basically took his manhood away by roasting him in front of all the men, and then they put that little viewpoint on him, and he saw everything happening in slow motion, and then he was super bitter about it, and he didn't want to see her until eventually she just went in there and he died. And so that was super sad. But a couple months later, this is what happened. She met up with a guy. Well, before we talk about that, I have to go with my list. So one of the things I want to talk about is the mule. So I have a question. Now we see that Janie, they say that the black woman is the mule of society, where the white folks put the pressure on the black men, but then the black men put the pressure on the black women. And so I have to ask, is Janie the mule, but at the same time is Joe Starks also a mule? See, Joe Starks died in the same way that the old mule did. I can't remember the mule's name, but Joe Starks died with his hands almost like resenting or trying to repress death away, trying to push death away, in the same way that the mule died with his hands up, almost in like this sort of like exaggerated, like pushing it away, denying death. And so Joe died victim of his own hand, his own ambition, in which case Joe could have been considered a workhorse or a work mule as well. And so that's something that was a question that I had. But so continuing on, she goes off with Tea Cake. And Tea Cake basically represents youth. He's everything that she wanted in her youth. And now that she's an old lady, there's this quote that I'm going to butcher it. I don't have the book with me right here. But there's a quote where she lived her life as young. She lived her old life when she was young, and now she's living her young life when she's old. And so Tea Cake, it represents her youth, everything that she missed as her youth. But Tea Cake, he starts out, we think he's perfect. At least she thinks he's perfect. We can see some red flags as readers pretty easy. But he takes her money. He has issues, jealousy, all this different stuff. And it's the same thing, but she clings to him. And so this brings up the question, what were the differences between Tea Cake and the other people, the other husbands? And so I basically dissected it to where, what was the difference between Tea Cake, and what was the difference between the bear-like husband, and what was the difference between Tea Cake and Joe Starks. So first off, Tea Cake looked a lot better than the bear husband, and that, I feel like that was her naivety. No, she was naive as young, when she was young. And so there was that issue. And then the difference between Tea Cake and Joe Starks was at heart. Joe Starks didn't want her to have fun. He wanted her for a specific purpose, and that was to basically serve him as an image for him. Tea Cake, he kind of feels the same way, that he owns her, but at the same time he wants her to be his companion in life. And that's a lot different than what Joe Starks had. So underneath, it's that heart that all three husbands represented. This it's almost like a triangle, where they wanted to protect, provide, but they were all missing that one thing, except for Tea Cake, and that was that they wanted her to be his partner almost. So the hurricane represents chaos. It's an outward life. And there's actually a lot more that I could talk about, and I'm actually going to wait until my next vlog. So just to keep this under 5 minutes, I'm going to put that right there, and I'm going to wait until my next vlog to talk about the rest of this, and then I'll introduce a new book. Alright? Thank you. Bye.